I have a question before starting this video. When you get on a bus, would you like to stand or to sit? There's no right or wrong answers. Everyone has their own preferences when it comes to using transit. The bus, however, has a cap on how many people it can carry, and this cap relies heavily on how the seats are arranged. How many times have you been on the bus that looked crowded, but the number of passengers is only half or one-third of the maximum capacity that it can handle? Most regular-sized bus can hold up to 60 passengers. A bendy one can carry up to 110 passengers, but I'm talking about when there's only 20 or 30 people on the bus, yet it already feels like it's full. The feeling of crowdedness here stems from the design and arrangement of bus seats, and yes, it can feel very cramped on a vehicle even when the capacity has not been reached. There might be another reasons, like people carrying backpacks or other bags. Some passengers may require more spaces than others. Among most transit agencies, you might have noticed that most seats are vertical, facing the direction of traveling, with some occasional seats that face each other, allowing more legroom. This leaves a tiny aisle in the middle, and that, my friend, is exactly why you feel suffocating on a bus that is not even that crowded. But we'll get back to that later. Buses, and in this case Canadian buses, face a major accessibility flaw as well. The ramp for people requiring mobility aids and strollers are usually at the front of the bus, make them have to roll inside, then turn, then roll to their dedicated wheelchair spaces behind the front axles. In some cases, this even involves the driver having to exit their seat to assist the passengers, adding more time to board and secure the passenger. This is due to the kneeling capacity of these buses only allow them to kneel forward to the right, versus other buses that can kneel half of it to allow wheelchairs and strollers to enter and disembark using the back door straight into the dedicated spaces. If necessary, the bus driver would only have to leave their seat to lift the ramp up. I think it is time, no, maybe it is high time that we change the standards for accessible devices for transit vehicles, because is it really meaningfully accessible if people still face struggles using those devices? Having accessible ramps on both front and back door also allows different types of mobility aids to use different doors and can speed up the boarding process if all door boarding is allowed. Okay, but back to the story about seat configuration. Like I said, a regular sized bus can carry up to 60 passengers. However, the seating capacity, which is the number of seats available, is usually at 30, leaving the other 30 for standing capacity at a narrow aisle. This is not realistic to say the least, and even if it does, it is a very cramming space. Furthermore, the comfortable distance between two people in a tiny space is 12 to 18 inches. Actually, it is not even the entire aisle because people mostly concentrate by the area from the front door to the rear door. You might have seen signs like "Do not block door" like this, but people keep on standing around this area because it is the widest area of the aisle that can have some space to breathe. Another thing that is very common in Canadian bus is that there is a step like this between the front and the back of the bus. The step is a nightmare for taller people, as they will have to bend if they stand in this area and make the bus only partially accessible. Meanwhile, the 2-seat per row design sometimes are too small and uncomfortable for sitting passengers as well. So, are there better ways to crowd control the bus while still maintain its capacity via how the seats are arranged? Yep, there are a few ways, but all of them will require sacrificing some sitting capacity, which means sacrificing some sitting comfort for standing comfort. A classic example that you might have known already is longitudinal seats, aka seats that are perpendicular to the traveling direction facing each other. This gives some more room for the aisle and allow more people to stand. These longitudinal seats can also play as more spaces for the priority seats areas, as people using walkers or strollers have more spaces with their devices, and some even go above and beyond with this with foldable seats for wheelchair users when needed. The foldable seats also make the bus feel more spacious and easy to breathe when it's not at capacity, and for sure will allow spaces for standees without major obstacles. The next example is a little bit controversial. It goes another step beyond longitudinal seat. which is single seats only throughout the entire bus. Many Asian buses actually do this, and I would not recommend doing so unless you make the entire bus floor accessible, meaning getting rid of that step in the middle of the bus that I just said, as well as provide appropriate straps for passengers to hold on to throughout the entire bus. You might be surprised about this, but sitting passengers benefit from these straps too, especially when they're trying to get out of their seats. What the heck with these buses only having 6 straps at the front of the bus, come on. The downside to single aisle seats like this is, of course, comfort. Groups of people will not be able to sit together, and once all the seats are filled, people will have to stand. If they live in the areas down the line of a bus route instead of at the beginning of it, chances are the daily commutes will always be standing. But this is more of a reliability issue, where more buses could be added to relieve the crowd rather than interior design problem. Another issue is the vision of sitting passenger is aligning with the thigh or butt or even crotch of the standing passenger, which I hope I don't have to make you imagine. In order to solve this, the seats can be placed a bit higher to align with the vision of the sitting passenger with at least the belt or belly of the standing passenger, reducing the awkward situations of having to stare at someone's butt for 45 minutes during your commute. Valley Line train of Edmonton actually does this with a step, but it can risk reducing the accessibility when you have to walk up one step to sit down. The last way of creating more standing capacity for the bus involves a hybrid approach to both methods above and retaining some 2-seat rows, and the most common way is to keep the longitudinal and accessible sitting area at the front of the bus for easy accessibility like I mentioned, while the back of a bus is a combination of a 2x1 configuration where one side has 2 seats per row and the other having 1. This still allows people to sit together while creating spaces for standees. It also provides options for people to sit alone for their own privacy and comfort. Little bit off the track before I conclude. This can be an unpopular opinion, but I like the way you request a stop on a Canadian bus.
Stop requested.
Yes, you pull a cord down. This is easy for sitting passengers as the cord is available throughout the entire vehicle. I don't know why people hate it. I personally really love it. However, I hope that there are also more buttons along the aisle as well to accommodate both sitting and standing passengers. In many newer versions of bus vehicles, there's a specific stop request button for wheelchair users, which makes them catching up to their counterparts around the world. This way, the wheelchair user can just press this button and the driver will know that they will need to lower the ramp at the next stop. So, in the end, there are numerous ways to mess around with the capacity of a bus based on the arrangement of the seats. Of course, there are no one-size-fits-all solutions for how should a transit agency decide how to align the seats. However, if they're designed in a smart and user-friendly way, it is definitely a good way to improve passengers' experiences using transit and create a positive, modern commuting environment. I have traveled in different countries and ridden different bus types, and the design of the transit network is only half of the transit puzzle. The other half starts with how the bus looks and is perceived. And what about you? What is your favorite seat on a bus? I'll see you in the next video, and stay safe. In case you didn't know, my channel has super likes and members enabled. Join my channel to enjoy some exclusive updates on my future videos and participate in the brainstorming or scripting of the videos. I also would like to thank all supporters from Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee who helped keep this channel going. I appreciate any amount that you chip in, as they do help cover some expenses for these videos. See you soon!